I'm Erica Hollingsworth, and you're listening to the F1 podcast.
What's up, everyone? It is Ricci here from the F1 podcast, recording this on May 14th, is season 4, episode 14, and we got a lot to talk about ahead of the Imola Grand Prix. And I'm here with my amazing co-hosts, Erica and Andrew. How are y'all doing?
Can't complain, and if I could, who would listen?
Don't you mean like the dill Emilia Romagna Italia pasta pizza pie 2024 Grand Prix?
It's the Formula One MSC Cruises Gran Premio del Made in Italy e del Emilia Romagna 2024.
Say that 10 times fast.
I think if you try to say it 10 times fast, a black hole opens, swallows you, and spits you out in an alternate universe where Lewis Hamilton won the 2021 championship.
Oh my
Who's
God,
that?
this again? Oh my God.
That's it. I had to say something. I just had to make a joke somewhere,
Latifi
and that's
never
what
crashed.
I went for. Oh
If
my
he never
gosh.
crashed, he would not be drinking all these free Red Bulls now. Just saying.
that Max conveniently decided to say, hey, we get this free case every week, I think.
Emilia
Emilia-
Romagna Grand Prix. I think I pronounced it, but I'm going to get butchered.
Emilia
Romagna.
Oh, my dad's going
I
to...
thought you were Italian there, Ricci.
Okay, speaking about myself, in 3 days, it's my birthday.
Woo.
And have a birthday request. And this is to everybody. I would love to hit 1,000 followers on Instagram of the podcast. We are sitting 16 away. So we might throw out a reel tomorrow, or maybe I will do that. I would love to get that for my birthday. And we're so close from where we started.
So close. That's my little triumphant
To be
trumpet
honest with you, I
noise.
never would have thought the day that we started this podcast that we would get to like 1,000 followers on Instagram. But thank you so much for our fans, for all your support for us to be able to just even get to this point on our team. It's been a humbling experience. It's been we're very grateful, and we want to continue the quest to success, the quest to 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. We'll never forget the OGs.
The OGs, the ones who came out to Trinity Common and stuff. Like, who would have thought we ever got to a place where we could get like 30 people to come out to a bar to watch a race together? Like, if you asked me that 4 years ago, not
I'd
a
be
chance I would have
laughing
thought
at
that
you.
was a thing. So, yeah, get us to 1,000 and hopefully we can do more fun stuff. We have ideas. We just need to know that people are interested in those ideas.
And I would also say just stay tuned on our social media pages because we are attending the Canadian Grand Prix, as mentioned before, for our third year in a row. We're going to do a fan meetup. We will finalize closer to when and where, maybe after one of the FP1s or FP2s, but it all depends on the schedule, the weather. We'll make a call, and we would love to see a lot of you. I don't know. We're fired up to attend. I mean, the Canadian Grand Prix is not for another 24 days, I think. So let's talk about some news.
Sad.
So let's talk about some news going into the first European race of the season, I believe. Andrew, I think you wanted to speak about some news in women's motorsport racing.
Yeah, really awesome news came out of British Formula 4 this week, or results, I say. Abbui Pulling, who's currently leading I think she has 7 podium finishes across F1 Academy, or 6, has now gained her 7th in the Formula 4 season by being the first female driver to claim victory at the British Formula 4 race.
That's
Right.
so exciting.
It's moments like these will propel females into that Formula 1 seat one day. You know what I mean? Like, this is like a cornerstone moment that will, be inspirational, right? In that case, that more females are going to want to get into motorsports, not only just from a technical side, but from a driver standpoint. And, to be able to win at that level, it's hard to win races, no matter what. But Formula 4, incredible, especially a British Formula 4. It's just keep pulling that rank, Abby, and we're very happy for you.
There's more and more young female talent coming up. Like, we talked to Nicole Haverda, and she's been crushing it in some of the, races and divisions that she's raced in past years. She's continuing to kind of push and drive forward, having met with Lewis Hamilton and all that stuff. And so to see that elsewhere too, there's more women coming up the ranks and not just participating, but achieving things. It just shows you like what was once possible isn't the limit anymore. You can go that little bit further. You can push the envelope. You can lay the pathway for who's next. And I kind of love to see that. That's so exciting. It's like we're not just stuck. We're gonna keep pushing.
maybe I might say Abbui Pulling might be the next Jamie Chadwick. I like it.
Potentially, that would be exciting.
I would love to see Jamie Chadwick just given, or Abby, these female F1 Academy drivers just be given a chance to like drive in, say, a Formula 2 even.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's a test, just to showcase what their medal is, and to prove to, teams around the the world, basically, that they are a force to be reckoned with in the world of racing.
Give a feel for the car, understand a bit more about maybe where the gaps are, right? So you can help folks develop even better, because you'll be like, here's how it's different from what you're used to doing. Here's maybe how you'd want to adjust your training. Like, if you don't have enough people to share that insight with you, because ultimately the training's different for men than it is for women. We're built different. I'm different. I'm built different. You just need that, right? So who knows, maybe in the off season with F1 Academy and some of the other groups that are investing a little bit more heavily in this realm, maybe we'll see something fun. It'd be great content. I think you'd see some good stuff online. So hey, content people, do your thing and pressure your people with your marketing powers.
The excitement that it has. And I know even here in Toronto with the PWHL having almost 98% attendance, and then a WNBA team coming in 2026, like, locally here, we're killing it, and just love to see them.
So I would love to see Drive to Survive do a full episode feature on the F1 Academy.
So it's not part of Drive to Survive. They're doing their own docuseries.
Oh, perfect.
And
Okay,
Susie
great.
Wolf announced it a few weeks ago. So we'll get to see a lot of fun behind the scenes stuff there. And it was even just fun knowing that the last race was one where F1 Academy was with them. So like Bianca got to see Lando's win in Miami, and like how motivating is that when the team that's sponsoring your racing career is also seeing the dubs in F1 and hopefully going to bring that same energy and fire to you. So yeah, good stuff.
I think Lando is still drunk from his win.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would
It
be,
would.
personally.
I think he's just been having a swell time, and we'll see what he gets up to at the Formula One MSC Cruises Gran Premio del Made in Italy dell'Emilia Romagna 2024.
Forza Ferrari. But speaking of Miami, so some news came out this week. If you mind, guys, I'm just going to go with this next one.
Yeah.
F1 rejects the latest Chicago Grand Prix rumors amidst growing rumors of a Formula One race in Chicago. F1 officials have denied any agreements or plans to add the city to the racing calendar. I'm not going to read about the whole thing, but let's think about this. You have a Miami Grand Prix, a United States Grand Prix, a Las Vegas Grand Prix. And, there's a couple of Twitter accounts that were talking that this was signed, and Reddit was going crazy saying, this is not official. Wait till the official website. And then, like, good thing we had a credible organization that like basically put this down. But it's like, okay, great. If you want to add another track to the United States, like, one, add the Andretti team. It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense that, like, if you're going to suggest this, but not also add an American team that wants to come in, then don't even consider it. Because then now you're making there's so many other tracks in Europe that would benefit from another a race. I mean, we've talked about how there's too many races on the calendar already. This is stupid. Like, why is this even considered?
Especially Chicago too. Like, of all the places, if you really want to showcase the US and some of the existing tracks that are out there, and please God, if they were to do it, don't make another street circuit.
That's what it will be. It'll be another
would
street
be.
circuit.
100% it would be. I don't want it to be, but that's exactly it. It's like, if you're in on America, you got to be in on an American team. And like, when we were at the exhibition, they actually talk about Andretti a fair bit. Like,
Yeah.
so it was kind of funny that they're like, oh, we love Andretti. And then it was like, well, we sent a very sus email no one responded to, and no one showed up to a meeting, so we're turning them down. It's like, either this means a lot to the sport or it doesn't. You kind of need to make up your mind here. So I don't know. I'm glad that they shut that down, because at least it's a little clearer direction. But just, I don't want a Chicago. I don't want a Chicago.
I've been to Chicago. I don't know how the hell you would put a street circuit.
Aren't they struggling with their NFL stadium right now?
No, there's no parking for the NFL stadium once they do the renovations, right? So, like, just like that kind of planning, where do you think you're going to put the cars? Like, where are you going to park 20 cars on a paddock down in downtown Chicago or the street circuit? Like, there's no way this works.
Some guy had that, what was it, the TikTok of, and he's like, it's Chicago. I don't even have any room to park my car. Nevertheless, 20 cars on the grid. And I was like,
At least with
this,
Vegas, right, with the strip, you had, 6 lanes wide to be able to like for the cars to go, right? I don't even know, being down, it's just it's blasphemous. But if they do sign, it'll be typical Stefano Domenicali all over again, because all this guy just wants is, he's like Michael Massey in a way with his decision in 2021, right? Just uses money, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. But the problem is that you can't, as you mentioned, Ricci, you can't just add another US race without just some form of brand value. And Haas, for my concern, pretty much negative brand value to the sport overall, right? And Andretti I think would be, it would be significant, right? They do so well in IndyCar already that it would be a great transition to F1. It would really bring in those IndyCar fans, more of those fans into the F1 side. I think if the Andretti move were to happen, I don't think it's a feasible race. And again, when we already have 24 races on the calendar, we don't need a fourth one in the United States.
I'm so glad
Or
that
sorry, fifth? No, fourth.
this would be the fourth.
fourth.
Yeah,
This would be
a
the fourth.
fourth. A sixth of the calendar going to the United States. No.
And like I like again, I don't even know if Canada realistically has another track. I can't think of any. Like Canada has hosted other Grand Prix before. Here in Ontario and Bowmanville they have, but obviously it does not have enough infrastructure to do like a Grand Prix, like a 2024 Grand Prix. But also like Erica, you did make such a great point at the F1 exhibit. Like there was, I wouldn't call it like a shrine.
No, but he was in some of the videos and they had memorabilia and he's a part of the exhibition. And then they're just like, this is it though. We're gonna show you this, but that's it. That's it. We don't want to hear the name otherwise. It's just so silly to me. It makes no sense. But in terms of other places to host the race, like Formula E used to do Vancouver. I don't know if they still do that. There's potential there. I feel like they might have the infrastructure for it and stuff like that if they were to look at Canada. I mean, there's nothing in Saskatchewan, so you could build anything you want.
It's
out
so
there.
flat, you could just have its own like straightaway, just straight. DRS straight for
Let's see how many provinces we can get in one lap of this Grand Prix, you know? So, but I don't
An
know.
idea I have is, why not, if you're going to expand, go to the one continent that you do not have a current race in.
Africa.
Go to Africa.
And
I
like
think there
Lewis has been campaigning for that for a long time too, because they used to have, I think, 1 or 2 races on the calendar in a couple different spots.
South
So
Africa.
it's like, was it so South Africa to me makes absolutely a ton of sense, but there's even like pretty developed infrastructure and stuff in a few other places. So like you're telling me there couldn't be something you could do in like the northern part, like Morocco, and that there wouldn't be something else you could do in even like Kenya or something. Come on, guys. Like
Kyalami in South Africa would be ideal, because they
yeah,
host they host endurance races there already. I honestly think it would be a great opportunity to bring the sport to Africa. If you're going to expand, go to a part of the world that you're not currently there.
exactly. Like if you really want that global presence, do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
She says while wearing an Adidas t-shirt. But, you know, the point remains.
Ricci, you do make a good point you did make up a good point about how the FIA declared that the South African Grand Prix would not return to the F1 calendar due to the government's stance on the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Oh no.
Okay, fine. Go somewhere else. Doesn't have to be South Africa, but the point still being,
You have a whole continent.
you have a whole
with
continent, figure it out.
FIO. Figure it out. Anyway.
So Alex Albon has come out. He's got some concerns about his future at Williams himself. And I don't know, with like the whole Nico Hulkenberg going to Sauber and like, well, slash Audi, it's not been looking such good times at Williams. Like we thought they were going to have such a good recovery, and we did see some better driving from Albon the last couple of years, but everything, including my focus on where I go, not so much for next year, but the year after, focusing on the side of things. I don't know. Like it's just not, I don't know if he seems defeated already and he doesn't want to drive anymore, or like probably wants to get out of that car as soon as possible.
It's tough because there's clear growing pains at Williams right now with the change in philosophy. It obviously has not worked out to what they've hoped to so far, right? I think more of these changes are systemic for 2026 onwards to be competitive in the new regs. But with Albon's age and, kind of this opportunity, he's not getting any younger, right? And he wants to be able to compete and win races in the F1 level. So he's kind of in a tough spot, to be honest with you. And he's got to make a decision on whether or not he believes in the team to, be able to go through the growing pains of a couple of years to potentially see something that might work. And if he were to win in the Williams, he would honestly be considered a god in the sport, just because of like the whole, the history of Williams. Or does he want to go take a risk at another team where, again, wins aren't really guaranteed, podiums aren't guaranteed unless you're with a top team? Unlikely Red Bull's going to take it back because it sounds like Checo is going to be there for 2025. Mercedes are in an interesting spot where it's like they could give Sainz thinking of potentially of a 1+1 deal so that they're both him and Russell are kind of would be then done at 2026, and then that opens the door opportunities for like Antonelli and maybe some other drivers, maybe Max Verstappen perhaps to Mercedes, right? But there is a lot of different combinations that are out there where Albon's got to have to kind of figure out his future plans sooner rather than later.
And it also begs the question, what promises were made to him and how was the pitch for coming to Williams framed in the first place? Because he's been there for a while now, if you think about it. And for them to have promised things before the current era, when Latifi was his partner, I'm sure many promises were made when Logan was joining the team and the change in leadership and everything. So you're sitting there, because he's 28. He turned 28 back in March. You're not a young buck anymore. And you've now seen Lando Norris, who's like 24, get his dub. You're seeing Oscar Piastri, who, is rising through the ranks, doing quite well. But at the same time, he's probably got this balancing act in his head where he's seen people who haven't stuck it out and have jumped ship and gone to other teams, and it hasn't panned out how they hoped. Cough, cough, Daniel Ricciardo.
You lose.
It begs the question, do you like grin and bear it and hope that, either there's another change in leadership and you're still with this team and then you get the traction you're looking for? Or do you risk it to get the biscuit and go over to another team where you might fall into the same pitfall, but hopefully you're at least getting paid more? I'm sure that's what a lot of people are hoping for when they move. Or maybe they're in a better position now and you're hoping that they're going to build on that momentum. So for him, it's definitely, I think, that balancing act. And we're starting to see more silly season stuff and more rumors come about. So I think we will continue to see a lot of very interesting moves going into more of the summer races and, especially once we get to that summer break. Like Joe, for example, because that's one that's been flying around the last week too.
Right. And with the fact that, Magnussen doesn't really give a shit about penalty points, he might want to start fearing it now because he might get suspended.
Yeah.
If he continues to just, decide to play the human wall on the circuit every Sunday when we go out there. But I think it's funny, right? Because I was just thinking of back to you think of Red Bull junior drivers, right? It's a great program to be a part of, to grow, but my God, it can be somewhat of a curse when it comes to securing your Formula One future, because you've had Albon go through the ranks where he was both a Toro Rosso and a Red Bull driver. Didn't cut it at Red Bull, so they're very cutthroat, and basically had to go to Williams to kind of restart his F1 career. You had Gasly, who outgrew himself at Toro Rosso, went to Red Bull, didn't cut it, went back down to AlphaTauri and clearly saw that he was not going to make it back up, so he jumped ship, went to Alpine. That didn't work out. The only one that semi worked out was Sainz, because he kind of realized ahead of time that he's not going to be making the top team. So I have to technically go to Renault, which at the time was not really a downgrade per se, as much of it was now going to say Alpine. But from there, he's been able then to contain success. We're going to Ferrari, and then maybe now securing a seat at Mercedes. But we're seeing this with Yuki, right? Is Yuki going to be able to get to this top speed, especially when you have a guy like Checo, who they're obviously going to keep because he's performing well, and he's kind of like that anchor for, gets those additional points to allow them to win the world's kind of constructors championship while not really competing against Max.
You also forgot to mention you had Danny Correa, who went from Toro Rosso to Red Bull, then got demoted again, then became the Ferrari's third driver, tried again to come back to Toro Rosso and then AlphaTauri, and then was a reserve driver for Alpine, and then he just ditched to NASCAR.
And then also, wait, did you say Daniel Kvyat and also Max
Yes.
Verstappen stole his baby mama and child essentially away from him to add salt to the wound? So
takes his seat, wins his first ever GP in his seat, and then steals his baby mama. My God, Danny Kvyat's down bad.
Yeah, dudes who are down bad. Dudes who are down bad.
Well, then also too, right, you have Daniel Ricciardo, who also then chose to left, right? And that didn't pan out well at all. And it's not really panning out well at V-Carb overall. He's had a good race. He had a great outing in Miami, and then, in China too before that. So, it kind of, it's working itself, but it's so tough, right? It's just so cutthroat at Red Bull that, I think Albon had to go to Williams to kind of restart his career, but he's kind of in this now limbo phase that we really he needs to figure out his future fast.
Yeah. Limited amount. The window is closing, shall we say. But I think, we're going to have a lot of drivers maybe having those conversations. So we shall see what happens as the season progresses. Haas isn't just in hot water because of the drivers. There's some other stuff going on.
Team personnel problems, all again.
They still can't get rid of Guenther Steiner, no matter what.
Guenther Steiner is kind of so you guys have heard of ghosting when it comes to dating, which is where, you're talking to someone, maybe you've gone out a few times, then you just don't hear from them anymore. He is haunting, not ghosting. And so haunting is when you went on a few dates, they ghosted you, but then they'll still like your Instagram stories. They're not fully engaged, but there's little whispers behind the scenes and proof that they're still paying attention to what you're doing. And you're also still paying attention to what they're doing because you're paying attention to the fact that they liked your Instagram stories. And I feel as though that is what's happening with Haas and Guenther Steiner right here, right now. It's a lot of everyone paying a lot of attention to what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, because we know that Steiner, he kind of filed a suit against Gene Haas in court over non-payment of commissions that he believed he was owed basically during all the brand, I guess, the recognition and the increase in value that was generated through his Drive to Survive, right? But in response, we've had Haas sue Steiner and his publishing company 10 Speed Press for unlawfully used and displayed Haas automation trademarks for personal gain and illicit profit, and had not been given permission or consent to do so. Gene, you made this man's life a living hell for 7 years. Why don't you just shut up, let the guy do his book, and you both can go on your merry way at this point?
You just know that the second if he were to drop his suit about the commissions, they'd probably drop theirs. It's very American to sue and countersue and do all that stuff. And so I'm 0% surprised this is happening right now.
I don't even think it's going to make it to the courtroom.
No, there's going to be a couple of lawyers in a room who are going to be like, do you want to deal with this? And the other guy's going to be like, no, I don't want to deal with this. And they'll be like, well, then let's not deal with it together and come up with something to appease everyone and make it go away. So I'm just hoping that if there's a deposition or something, we get some Unreal Court transcripts out of it, because I think that would make my day. I think there'd be some very quotable material in there, and I, for one, want to get my fingies all up in it.
Speaking of silly season, speaking of team personnel, we've had a couple moves happen in silly season already with regards to team personnel leaving certain teams, joining certain people that are going to join people next year. John, you're going to be very excited to hear about this news. Why don't you provide it?
Yeah, so Scuderia Ferrari HP, sorry. It's not the same guy, sorry. Scuderia Ferrari HP announced earlier this week they strengthened their team with the arrival of Loic Ciara and Jerome
D'Ambrosio.
Yeah, I got that close. So I think these are pretty good additions. I mean, both these guys have like a wealth of experience within Formula One and in the racing community. I mean, just this is kind of building up that team to report to Adrian Newey when he comes to Ferrari.
Which I want that to happen so bad at this point. Just steal everyone from everywhere, please. Like, just mad respect and mega riz dripping from Fred Vasseur, and I just want good things for him after all of this.
Or another way to look at it is that Lewis Hamilton has convinced Fred to take on these two guys too, right?
Oh, I
Because
forgot about that. Yeah.
Logan is going to be he's going to become the head of chassis performance engineer, and I believe he worked on track engineering, aero development while at Mercedes, and then as well Jerome. He used to be he used to be a Formula One driver for sure as well, but he was looking over the young driver program at Mercedes, which has provided people like George Russell, Kimi Antonelli coming up in that regards too. So I think these are two great moves by Ferrari, and it's fun to see Fred isn't screwing around. He
Yeah.
wants to bring back prominence to Maranello, and he wants to showcase why the red car is the best car on the circuit, like it used to be.
It's just so beautiful. It's just like, please work. Like, and then I guess like who's gonna step up in Mercedes for those two big like additions? Like what is Toto Wolff gonna have to do to replace those guys?
Because he's also been helping co-head the driver development program at Mercedes. So that's another role that they're gonna have to look to fill, like what's going on with the young guys. But yeah,
Again,
he's also pretty young. He's 38.
and like again, this is going to showcase if Toto Wolff is really truly a quality leader, right?
Mhm.
Because as Christian Horner has always pointed out, he says like Toto was given a lot of good opportunities with with Nicky in the picture back when he took over at Mercedes, and he hadn't really been tested until these past few years to that point where he hasn't really stepped up to the bill. He really hasn't stepped up to the mark yet. Post 2021, I don't know if the clock's ticking on Toto as part of the team principal side. Mercedes fans, I would love to hear your comments on it, because it's always good when people are getting taken from your team because you know that there is something right. The problem is having to then now replace them.
Yeah.
And we're not too sure what those replacements will look like. And I don't know if there's a sense of panic now at Mercedes due to that. But I'm really curious. I would love to hear from the Mercedes fan group.
We did kind of hint at it before. I know we were talking a little while ago about how this is going to be big pressure on Toto this year and maybe a little bit of make or break. So I don't know. I know that I have no idea what compensation is like at an F1 team, but I do know some of the metrics. Like at my own company, retention is part of what people are graded on and stuff. So if you've got these folks who have helped you get somewhere and you can't keep them around and retain them, the eyes might start to shift and start looking at Toto. So the hills have eyes and they're always watching.
What are you guys watching for this weekend in Imola?
Oh, excellent question, Jono. Excellent question.
Can
Well,
McLaren do a back-to-back, especially in a track in Imola? Like we do have, like, think about it. We have a lot of history going into this weekend. You have the McLaren that's going to have a nice kind of authentic Ayrton Senna look car to give him homage, to remember him. You have Sebastian Vettel that will be driving a car that weekend. I think it's Ayrton Senna's old car that he raced in Formula One. I don't know what Ferrari's doing as their first race technically on home soil. But yeah, I know it's going to be a special weekend, and the Tifosi will be out. I think the full Tifosi will be out for Monza. But I mean, I think this is I think this is the first track on Europe of the season. So curious to see how everything's going to play out.
I would love it if McLaren pulled a repeat, but I'm not optimistic that that will happen. First and foremost, we have heard that a few other teams are planning to bring upgrades, one of which is Ferrari, and they have put a lot of pressure on the front of the grid this season already. So if they are bringing upgrades, and assuming those upgrades work as we are expecting them to, I'm thinking we're going to see some speedy boys flying by in red. And I would be excited for that because I would love to see Leclerc return to his form from a few years ago, because I don't think we've really seen it all. I will say, though, as we've talked about before, McLaren does want to keep pushing throughout the season and to continue to bring things to the car. So who knows? There might be some learnings from Miami that they can bring to help performance even further. So I still think they'll be very competitive. I just don't necessarily think we're going to see a win, but we might see a podium. I think we'd see a nice little podium there, and I'd be here for it.
Truthfully, I'm really excited. What I'm going to be looking at is Ferrari this weekend because they're bringing 8 upgrades.
8. I didn't know it was
8.
8.
They're bringing 8 upgrades to the car. It's gonna like the side pods are gonna more look like it's gonna kind of look like like the Red Bull right now, in terms of how that design is gonna work out. The airflow is gonna look quite interesting too because they're reconfigured the side pod body work and the engine cover and the cooling outlets have also been adjusted too on the side of the car. They made some adjustments to the rear wing as well. A lot of it has to do with aerodynamics, right? And Fred Vesser also made a very good point today that, despite as many upgrades as you bring, it's all about setup at the end of the day, right? So let's see if Ferrari can now take on if they can match those upgrades with the right setup. And I don't know, John, push for a win on home soil. Is that crazy to say?
That would be really nice, and I think that Tifosi would love that, especially with how they've been driving all year. Could be Leclerc's to win this weekend, but I don't want to say any more. I'm just going to leave it at that.
I think what I'm also going to be looking for is that Mercedes are also bringing like the quote unquote second half of their upgrade package to Imola. And if it was like anything like their first upgrade last week in Miami, it's not going to be great overall. It's kind of like me being an Aston Martin fan last year. I was tired of when I heard these upgrades were coming because they were quote unquote downgrades really at this point, in that sense. So again, a lot of talk, not a lot of substance coming out of Mercedes. So let's see if the second half will change that. But despite everything, they're still sounding positive at Brackley. But again, is that just kind of bit of confidence and cockiness, or are they just trying to hide the fact that it's just not the car again?
If I were at Mercedes or a fan of the team, I would approach the weekend with a cautious optimism. And that's, I think, the best way I can think to phrase it.
To be honest with you, if I was a Mercedes fan, I expect the worst, and then just be thrilled with like a points finish.
It's like me at the beginning of last season with McLaren. You just expect everyone to DNF in every race, and you're thrilled when anything but that happens. So, welcome to the bottom of the barrel, guys. At some point, it will turn around.
But I want to say though, the upgrade of the weekend is at Ferrari because Brian Bossi is now replacing Javi Marcos as Leclerc's race engineer. No
Okay.
more. We are checking.
Wait, hold up. We are checking.
Okay, we are checking. We are checking.
To think like how much this guy costed Leclerc races and points finishes back with his tenure, it's gonna be probably a breath of fresh air for Leclerc. I mean, don't worry about the communications though. But we will miss the radio comments back and forth to each other, won't we?
Xavi's been a bright spot in what I've felt for radio communication has been lacking since we could no longer hear the team principals speaking to the race director, because I still miss that. But there is always a little bit of fun still to be found, and I believe we have all found that over these last few years with Leclerc and Xavi.
I will never forget, I believe it was in Monaco 2022, when he basically brought in Leclerc from being P1 to P4 on up Aaron pit stop. Just unbelievable. I'll never forget that. It was just what could go wrong went wrong, and it was incredible. We will miss you, Chappie, nevertheless.
We raise a glass to you, good sir.
So that will end this week's episode of the F1 podcast. A lot to celebrate back in Italy for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. And We are 16 away from 1,000 followers on Instagram. Eric and Andrew, thank you so much. We're excited to be back racing in Europe. And
Woo.
also to note that there was no race last year because of the floods. So it will be
Right.
it will be excited to be back. So we forgot to mention that earlier in the episode. Lots to discuss. Silly season is still upon us. And you know what? Things can change once this episode's done and I'm editing. So you never know in Formula One.